students, today we'll be discussing about human resource management, that is KMBN 202, and today we'll be discussing about what HRM is, how it is a relevant part of organization, and what is its contribution towards organization achievement of goals and objectives. Before we start up with the introduction of HRM, I would like to tell you that when we talk about organization, we all know that there are 5 M's. We have men, material, method, market, and money. But if you see all these M's, it is only the human resource or men which is managing your rest of the resources. So it is a very important and crucial part of your organization so as to manage rest of the resources, rest of the M's, in order to make input into output, whether it is your company's objectives, goodwill, profit, maximization of your markets, and expansion growth, whatever is the objective of the organization. But it is only through the management by human resource manager in the organization in managing rest of the resources as so as to accomplish all the goals and objectives. So talking about so actual concept of human resource. So human resource, basically, what when we talk about what is human resource, so human resource is basically sum total of knowledge, skills, creative abilities, talents and aptitudes, values, approaches and beliefs of an organization workforce. So HR is all the combination of all the skills and employee competencies, abilities, attitude, approach, which is required by the organization to fulfill organization goals and objectives. So then what is human resource management? So if you see, we have traditional and modern definition. So traditional definition is molding of human resources in such a fashion that the goals of an organization are met at the same time the need satisfaction of all employees at all levels is attained to the highest possible degree. See here in in traditional definition, we are the focus is on the achievement of organization goals and satisfaction of the employees. Now modern definition includes all the managerial functions and including the motivation, development and integration, which is very important element while you are managing your human resource. So modern definition, which is given by Edwin B. Flippo, although we have lot many authors that have given very specific and precise definitions of HR, but here in it is Edwin B. Flippo who says that HR management is the planning, organizing, directing and controlling of the procurement. That means you control the procurement, then you develop your human resource, then you compensate them accordingly, integrate them with the rest of the in the all the levels of the organization and take measures to maintain them. And finally, when they exit from your organization, when they get separated from the organization, you need to find out the reasons and have a decent exit of an human resource from the organization so as to achieve your individual organization and societal goals. So therefore when we talk about human resource, so it is concerned basically with facilitating the competencies and retention of the skilled force. Then you develop your management systems accordingly so as to promote commitment from the employees, and then they, while promoting commitment, you are developing practices that can foster teamwork and which will make your employees feel valued and rewarded. So this is very important in an organization, that your employees feel valued and rewarded for whatever contribution they are making to the organization. So if we talk about what exactly your HRM is doing, so it is basically fulfilling three type of objectives for an organization. So one is societal objectives, which seeks to ensure that the organization becomes socially responsible to the needs of the challenges of the society, because society too is a dynamic in structure. And when you are meeting the needs of the challenges of the society, so you need to minimize the negative impact of such demands upon the organization. So organizational objectives, how HR helps in meeting organizational objectives, it basically recognizes the role of HRM in bringing about organizational effectiveness. So it makes sure that HRM is a standard department. That means rather than meaning to assist to the organization, it needs to get that valuable recognition in the organization, so as to have its prime contribution in the attainment of organization goals and objectives. Then, while maintaining functional objectives, it is to maintain the department's contribution, that what HR department is, how it is contributing at a level which is appropriate to organization needs. So HR human resources are to be adjusted to suit the organization demands. That means you need to have that those skills, those competencies in an organization which will suit to the organization overall business strategy and its demands. So the department's value should not become to the expense at the cost of organization it serves. And then finally it is personal objectives, because ultimately your employees are working, and why they are working, they have got their own career aspirations. So you need to align. So HR is to align and assist employees in achieving their personal goals, at least as far as these goals, you know these these goals are uh, these goals are identified by the these HR manager, and they must be met if they are to be maintained, retained and motivated. Otherwise what will happen, employees performance and satisfaction may decline, which will which will give rise to employee turnover, right? So talking about that, therefore HR, it plays a very important role. The role of HR becomes very very important when we talk about organization. So while maintaining HR, you need to have we must be we must understand what exactly HR department or what exactly HR manager does. So primarily there are functions which are managerial functions and operative functions. Talking about managerial functions, these are normal functions of a manager, which is planning, organizing, directing and controlling, irrespective whether he is HR manager, finance manager. These are common to the managers. So planning, that means thinking in advance what is to be done. You are prior, you are becoming action oriented, and that has to be planned accordingly, that has to be decided accordingly, that when and how it has to be taken. That means we need to take into consideration 4 W's and 1 H, and then simultaneously we need to organize that how it is to be it needs to be structured in the organization. So that means that where putting up your all resources, valuable resources in an organization, uh, in the in a manner where they are required. So designing the structure of relationships among jobs, personal and physical factors is how you organize. And before the action is started, you direction is required. You must give direction to your team members, to the your department, that which might be in a form of motivation, or command. So this is to get people to work willingly and effectively. And then finally we have controlling, which is obviously observation of action and its compassion with plans. That means what you had thought of, that what is to be achieved and what has been achieved, and then thinking about those gaps, that how they need to be fulfilled. If there are any deviations, which have occurred during the implementation. So these functions are common to every manager. But when we talk about operative functions, they are very specific to the HR manager only or HR department only. So procurement, when we talk about procurement, is obtaining right kind and number of manpower which is necessary to accomplish organization goal or staffing. So you need to put right person at the right time at the right position. See, right time is very essential. Sometimes you might skip right person at the right position. No, time is very important and valuable factor when we talk about procurement and staffing. Then once you have procured, then you need to increase the skill through training that is necessary for proper job performance, which is taken care by training and development in the organization. If you are not going to adequately and equitably remunerate your personnel or employees in your organization for their contribution to the organizational objectives, then they will feel demotivated. So compensation again is a very important function of your HR. And then it is motivation, because compensation is one of the important factors in motivating. It might not be the sole factor of motivation, but it is a prime factor of motivation. So you need to withhold your you need to retain and maintain your employees in the organization, by devising mechanisms, by devising strategies, practices and policies accordingly, so that your employee sticks and maintains the number which is required by the organization, right? And then integration, it is very much concerned with a reasonable reconciliation of individual, uh, which might help in societal and organization interests. And then what is equally important is separation or exit from the organization. So separations and return of that person to society, it has to be properly managed in time, in the way of retirement, sometimes maybe in time, layoff, outplacements, discharge. So depending upon all those functions, that what exactly is required in terms of separation. And then finally we have emerging issues. So emerging issues, when we talk about, so you need to have, organization must be ready for any of the unseen challenges which might take place in the market, and which affects your organization as such in general. So you need to tackle those emerging issues, whether it is globalization, it is privatization, it is revolution of through IT, or it is because of the globalization the market is has become open. You cannot stop your employees um, to go to your competitor. So it becomes very challenging for HR manager to retain and simultaneously these days to offer work life balance, which is becoming a very prime concern of the modern HR. So you need to have that aspect of, to deal with those emerging issues. So all these functions and all, because of all this, it becomes very important department, very important area, and a very important for contributing area for achievement of your business, overall business goals and objectives. So it helps company to achieve its objective from time to time, by creating a positive attitude among workers, and making them and creating a positive attitude, reducing wastage and making maximum use of resources. It also, because HR manager, they form proper HR policies, so employees are trained well, and that makes them ready for future promotions. So their talent can be utilized only in the company in which they are currently working, but also in other companies. So it is not because when a person is updated in skills, so those skills will remain with the person throughout his life, whether he is in the company, in the current company, or any of the companies which he later might join in. So HR also helps in professional growth, and therefore it also has a major role in maintaining a better relation between union and management. So HR practices which are developed by HR manager, they help the organization to maintain cordial relationship with the unions. So union members start realizing that the company is not only interested in the workers, and they are not there to go against the workers, but they are there to help them out by providing better working conditions, by motivating them, by taking care of their requirements, personal needs in terms of career growth and satisfaction. So HR practices teach individuals teamwork and adjustments. So the individuals are very comfortable while working in teams, therefore it increases overall teamwork culture in an organization. And one of the prime relevance of HR is that it identifies persons for future, because organizations, they are dynamic. They need to respond to the changes which is happening in the market so as to be competitive in the market. Therefore, requirement of skills, requirement of competencies is not stagnant. It has to, you need to serve organization with skills and competencies which are required to meet the future business challenges and strategies. So employees are constantly trained, so they are ready to meet the job requirements, and therefore the company is also able to identify potential employees who can be promoted in future for the top level jobs. Thus it becomes very important aspect of organization. When we talk about organizations, because I said that it helps in achieving organization goals and objectives. Therefore, talking about organization goals and objectives, one of the important aspects is business strategy, overall business strategy, the contribution of HR towards how it contributes by identifying personnel for future, and in attaining that overall business strategy. So when we talk about basically strategy, what strategy is, strategy is an approach which is selected to achieve, and which uh, um, which helps you in achieving defined goals in the future. And if we go by the definition of Chandler, he says that strategy is the determination of long term goals and objectives of an enterprise, and adoption of courses of action. That means what courses of action, what you need to do, how you are moving forward for the attainment of that particular determined goal. And very one important aspect of strategy is allocation of resources. You need to have those allocation of resources, that means what is available with the organization, so that the available resources can be utilized for achieving future your long determined goals and objectives. So if we talk about strategy, basically it is forward looking. That means it is about deciding where you want to go, and how, what are the means to get there. So it is concerned with both ends and means. So uh, basically strategies define longer term goals, but they also cover how those goals will be attained. So they guide your purposeful action to deliver the required result. And if we talk about the second strategy of the second sorry characteristics of the strategy, it is organization capability of a firm. It is very important to identify capability of the firm. That means your SWOT, that what you are having and what you need to have. So the gap in between that what you want to have and what you need to have and what you are right now having in terms of resources, we are talking about that what resources you are having and what resources you will be requiring in the future for attainment of that identified long term goal and objective. So the the quality and quantity of the resources have to be properly, aligned in order to achieve results. And third important characteristics of the strategy is strategic fit. Strategic fit is very very important, wherein the developing where you need to have the developing HR strategies to achieve congruence between them and the overall business strategies within the context of its external and internal environment. So the focus is upon the organization and the market or the world around it or the environment in which it is operating. So to maximize competitive advantage, a firm must match its capabilities and resources to the opportunities available in its environment. So uh, talking about strategy, uh, now when we talk about how to how HR will help in achieving that strategy, so we have strategic human resource management. So it may be defined as the pattern of planned human resource deployments and activities which are intended to enable an organization to achieve its goals. As stated by Schuler, strategic human resource management is largely about integration and adaptation. So, what you need to integrate? You need to integrate resources, and what you need to adapt? You need to adapt to the changes which are required by the organization for the fulfillment of their long term goals and objectives. So, it is fully integrated with the strategy and strategic needs of the firm, and HR policies cohere both across policy areas and across hierarchies. And HR practices are adjusted, accepted, and used by line managers and employees as part of their everyday work. That means if you want to achieve your long term goals and objectives, you don't have to wait for the time period to come wherein you can make your policies and act accordingly. No, it has to be proactive. So practices needs to be adjusted as a part of their everyday work. So it is an approach that defines how organization goals will be achieved through people by means of HR strategies and integrated HR policies and practices. Now there are certain steps for developing, you know, HR for developing strategic HR. So first is analyzing the business strategy. You need to a business or it business has got a different approach towards strategy, because it has to be viable, it has to be competitive in the market. So there could be number of business strategies. It could be expansion, it could be diversification, it could be mergers, takeover, joint ventures, expansion. So while developing your strategic human resource management, you must analyze what our business strategy is, because for every business strategy, requirement of HR would be different. You cannot have the same strategic HRM for merger as compared to, let us suppose, expansion. So you need to identify both opportunities, problems, and need to go for environmental analysis. That is special. You need to find out. For example, if you are going for your business is your organization is planning to go for expansion, and then expansion is in some foreign market. So your foreign market is altogether having altogether having a different environment, may it be legal environment, may it be you know uh, a political environment. So accordingly, your approach towards HR will differ. So similarly, then compensation will differ. Similarly, your handling with labor will differ. So motivation, even motivation, because culture has a huge impact on human resource. So even if you are going for expansion, then you need to, even if you want to go for a merger, so you need to identify what my current uh, human resources, and that you will how you will gauge your what your current human resources. You will gauge it from your stock. You will gauge it from your inventory, HR inventory, that what type of skills your organization is having, and what is the requirement of skills which will fulfill the future demand of HR. Then you need to analyze your actual HR which is available, that means resources what which is available in terms of skills, experience, knowledge, competency, attitude, abilities, and that will give rise to the gap, that what is the gap in between existing or current HR and what is required for your future. So that gap analysis then has to be fulfilled by development of a strategic plan. So primarily we have two different approaches to fulfill that gap. It is make or buy. If there is gap, if there is existing any gap in between what your current HR is and what is the future, so there the approach either has to make or to buy. If you go for making, then you need to have a very strong culture of training and development, and if you want to go for buying it, then you need to work upon your recruitment and selection. Then accordingly you develop a strategic plan and go for its implementation. While implementing it, you need to have certain things in your mind when you are implementing it. First, have a clear defined business strategy. Then you need to build a case why and how HR matters for strategic implementation, that what will be the contributing part of your HR for implementation of for the implementation of SHRM in achieving long term goals and objectives. Then you need to build a strategy map which will describe the casual flow of strategy implementation, that where from your what would be the flow of maybe skills, competencies, is it horizontal, vertical, where because movement of HR, movement of skills keeps on it keeps your organization very rich. When we talk about skills, you cannot stagnate skills at one particular level, so there has to be movement of skills. So you need to build that casual flow. Then, which is what is very important, is you need to link HR architecture to the strategy map, and while designing that, you need to align it with HR deliverable. That means what is expected from HR department when it comes to results for business strategy. And then, so this all will help you in smooth implementation of strategic HRM, so as to achieve long term goals and objectives. And then finally it is evaluation. You need to evaluate your strategy, that whether the strategy that has been adopted, has it or actually catered to the requirements of the business or not. And that you can have only when you are having those three aspects, whether you are going for a universal approach, a bundle approach, or strategic fit. That means wherein you are customizing your strategy according to the requirements of the person. It is when your mergers and acquisition starts. So first of all, it starts with the denial, that employees do not they are not ready to accept this strategy because it creates a fear, followed by anger, then sadness, and then acceptance. Now, from denial, if you go towards sadness and this base as acceptance, it does not happen all of a sudden, because it only happens when there is clear and transparent system of communication. As an as a top manager or as an organization, it becomes your responsibility to make your people secure, because the moment you know the employees hear about that organizations are going to merge or they are being acquired or are going to acquire any organization, so it automatically by default creates that sense of insecurity. So that insecurity has to be, you know uh, it has to be controlled somewhere, um, it has to be taken care of by the managers. So communication is the key. Let you make them aware that why this merger is happening, why this acquisition is happening, how it will help organization to grow, how it will help employees to grow. So therefore it will lead to the acceptance and finally relief. Then they will start taking interest in the entire process of merger and acquisition. They will start liking it, because they are not insecure about their jobs, about their careers, about their personal growth, and finally they start enjoying these type of strategies. uh, this is what we were saying, that you need to take care of all these people's issues. Staged model of merger and acquisition, which goes with the pre-combination, that means before merger and acquisition, then combination and integration when it goes with combination, integration of the partners, solidification and advancement of the new entity. So you need to uh, have a proper strategy made for all these three stage model of merger and acquisition. So pre-combination, that means you need to identify reasons for merger and acquisition, you need to form a team leader, you need to search potential partners who will help you in this pre-combination phase, and then planning for managing processes in under mergers and acquisition. So knowledge and understanding needs to be disseminated when we talk about its implication on HR. So leadership has to be very very strong in the times of pre-combination. It needs to be on the place, and what will help you is composition of team. Then systematic and extensive pre-selection and selections are essential, very very important, and that is conducted through due diligence in all the areas in vital. Culture assessment in pre-combination stage is very important, and that has to be done very very sensitivity by HR. So the role of HR in cultural assessment becomes very important, because if we go by say by the previous histories of mergers and acquisition, it is almost 88% of the mergers have failed because of the cultural disparities. So planning for combination will minimize problems later, and which will help in creating practices for learning and knowledge transfer. Then in combination stage, you need to design and implementation teams. Then you need to have an approach for retaining key employees, so that change process which you are managing, it becomes more smoother. And what I said, that it is communicating to the involving stakeholders is very very important. So deciding on the HR policies and practices, and creating teams that design and select or critical for transition and combination success, because we know that every change is being followed by the resistance. So you need certain catalysts to overcome that resistance at all the points of all the stages of your mergers and acquisitions. So you need to decide on who stays and who goes. Now this is one of the important, you can say, the stage which might lead to insecurity, fear, anguish in your employee. So this has to be handled very, very cautiously, very, very strategically, and very, very, you can say it has to be a very, very thoughtful process, so that in the process of deciding who stays and goes, you do not lose your key, key persons. You do not lose your key skills in the organization. So you need to establish a new culture and HR policies. And finally, when it comes to solidification and advancement of new entity, so you need to solidify it by leadership and staffing, because by now there would be completely new leadership in the management. There would be new management in place, and therefore leadership has to be very, very efficient, and so that you can assess new strategies and structures now. Then assessing the concerns of stakeholders is required, that because now it is your processes are going to solidify, you cannot then frequently change your structures and processes. So revising is needed, and then learning from the process is required. So leadership and staffing of the new entity is very, very essential at this point of time, and because it will lead to create and evaluate a new structure. Then obviously it has to melding down of two cultures and assessment revision. And finally, the new entity must learn. So this is basically how HR and what role HR can play during mergers and acquisition. So this was a, you can say, an overview of Unit 1 of your HR, Human Resource Management, KMBN 202. I hope um, certain things are clear, and if there are certain doubts, you can always reach to me.